Hey everyone, thanks for joining me in this video. I'm going to be talking more about the knife that I'm working on. I'm going to be making the templates for this and cutting out the blade, getting it rough ground into shape. Not sure how far this video will go, but I think probably just roughing it out into a blank. And then the next video after that we'll talk about, we'll show actually shaping it. But this is the design. Let me look in the viewfinder. Okay, so you can see the red line in the handle. That's going to be the tang of the knife, so that's the part that will go through the inside of the handle. That's integral to the blade. Some people will, make their blade and then weld a tang on there to not waste the blade steel, but this will be a little bit stronger probably. Plus it's stainless steel, and I just have a MIG welder. It's set up for welding just mild steel basically. So I don't know if that'll even weld stainless without probably some sort of a special setup. I think you need gas for that. Somebody can straighten me out on that. I'm not really sure. Let me get back down. So what I'm going to do in this video, start out is making a template. So all I'm going to do is cut out the blade profile plus the tang profile, and then get it onto this piece of Luan, and then we'll cut that out. And that will give me a more permanent template to work off of. And in the future I can label all this stuff with sizes. Maybe, put a date on it, it'd be kind of neat, and then have that for later if I want to make another knife this profile. It might seem silly to make these wooden templates to some people, because I could just kind of, paste this paper right to the metal and kind of trace around it and rough it out. But it's nice to have the wood template, because throughout the process of making the knife, you're going to heat it up, and some of your scribe lines will disappear, and so you can keep kind of retracing the shape to it. And of course, like I said, you'll have the template down the road if you need it for making another knife, or because you might be really into making this knife and something could happen to the blade and the whole process and have to start over. And of course, not that big of a deal. I guess you could just retrace it, but I like having a little wooden template around. The other thing too is when you make the template, I go ahead and I get the template shaped up pretty good, and it turns into basically a model of the knife. And once you have something in your hand that's more than a sheet of paper, you might see that you need to tweak it a little bit and alter it some. So it's a good way just to kind of mock everything up, see if you like what you're actually going to be making. My template is cut out. Again, it's just some 1/4" Luan, and it's kind of nice if you leave the paper on there like that. That's going to give me my other points, and I can keep using this as a reference throughout my project. Now that I have it in a little model that I can look at, and I can sight down it better than I could when it was on paper, it's nice because I can see areas that I might like to change just a little bit. For example, right now I have this to where from this point to sort of like, if you can imagine the line going right to there, make sure you can see that, it's ever so slightly tapered from here to here to here to here to here. And I think it might look better in the end if that was a rectangle could fit right in that without being tapered. That way the engraving would I think look a little bit better later on, but I'm not sure. And then also I think right in this sort of area it looks a little kinked, and that's not because of the way I sawed it out. Once I saw this, I kind of re-referenced my little drawing, and when you look at it directly from the side you don't see it, but when you sight down it, it just doesn't look like a really natural flow through there. So I'm going to alter that a little bit in the actual piece when I'm cutting it out. You see it? See that? So once you have the template, you can just trace it out and then go to your grinder or whatever method you have for actually cutting it all out. I'm just going to be using this angle grinder here with cutoff wheels. And some people like to use a bandsaw of some sort, a metal cutting bandsaw, or a Some people just pretty much grind the whole thing out, which is a lot of wear on a belt. I'd rather just do the angle grinder and remove it. So a lot of people will just trace it out and go right to a heavy grip belt and really rough it out. I don't know how many people do that, but I have seen some people doing it. But that looks good. So now that I've got that traced out, I can put this back on there and trace it again if I need to. Sometimes when you're cutting it, the angle grinder will heat the metal up so much you just burn the ink right off. You could also scribe it on there. But now's a good time too if I want to do some sighting down it to kind of change my line just a little bit. But this is good enough for what I'm doing at first. I'm just going to go ahead and cut close to my lines and then retrace it and refine it from there before I finalize its shape. I just traced the template onto the bar stock, the blade steel, but what I'm going to do first before I actually cut this out is go ahead and grind the mill finish off. That's just that dark coating that's on the steel first. That'll be a lot easier to handle that piece of steel on the belt grinder than to handle just the knife blank cut out. It'll be a little more stable and I won't kind of round over on the edges or anything. The next step is cleaning up the profile on the knife, and I've got my red lines already drawn on there. That's good enough for this step. I'm just going to get down to the inside of the red line, and as I'm getting it down to shape, I'll be making some decisions. I might tweak it a little as I go. And for doing this, I'm going to be using my 2x72 grinder. That's a 2-inch wide, 72-inch long belt, so it's 72 inches all the way around it. And this particular one's called made by Speed Cut. I don't even know if they make this grinder anymore. I got this one from my dad. It's just something he had. But it works good, and it takes that standard 2x72 belts, which there's a lot of those made, different companies and different grits and different types. This grinder also has a little polishing wheel off to the side. I've got this set up for doing more of a high polish type polishing for firearms. But I use the belt for a lot of stuff, whether it be coarse belts or fine belts, depending on what I'm doing. I'm going to start out with this 80 grit belt. These orange ones you're going to see me use in this video are Norton Blaze belts. So Norton is the make, and then Blaze is the specific product. Norton's the company, Blaze is the name of the belt. They make a lot of different types of belts. But I seem to get real good results out of these, and I started using these based on different suggestions that I had seen people say on different forums and stuff. So first step is just using this belt. This is a sort of a worn out belt. I'm just going to get the profile shaped on this thing, then I'll switch out to a new belt and start all of the hollow grinding. One quick thing to mention is I've got this set up with some dust control going on. So there's the belt grinder, and then up under it you can see my dust collection for my woodworking tools. There's the little dust collector right here, and you can see that I've just got a short section of hose going to the dust collector behind this little table, and then I've got this hose running out the door, and it just shoots out the back of my house. That is going to get rid of most of the dust coming off this. Then I also have a air filter that hangs on the wall of my wood shop. I run that and then wear a respirator. And then you just have a little bucket of water to cool this off as you go, if you'd like, unless you just want to stand there and hold a hot piece of metal. Here's the knife all profiled down as much as I could go on the belt grinder. The last thing I need to do is get in here and clean this up. I'm going to use these two files here to do so. The round will get in that little radius there, and then I'll blend it out into, well, down to my little line you see scribed in that layout fluid. And that's what the blue is on the steel. It's just some layout fluid. There it is. I'll order all this type of stuff off Amazon for the most part, since things like this are semi-specialized. Some of y'all might have stores around you can pick things like this up. But around here I've got Lowe's, Home Depot, and then there's a couple hardware stores, but more like Ace Hardware, True Value type places that don't carry specialized stuff like that. I'm sure there's somewhere you can buy things like that locally, but for me it's easy just to order things like that, same way it is for a lot of y'all. And we'll do all this work in a bench vise that I have bolted down to some plywood. And this is a handy thing to do. If you have it bolted down to plywood, you can move the vise anywhere you want. Just clamp it down to whatever workbench you're working at, and then afterwards move it, and you've got your free space to work. So I'm going to go ahead and get that taken care of. That's all shaped up right in that area with the files, and I'm going to leave that defiled surface for now. All that will get cleaned up towards the end of this project with my Fordham tool with a little drum with a sanding drum in there. The next step I want to do before I actually start to do the hollow grind is clean up this area in red. This is the general design of the knife, the shape. Here's the design again for reference. You can see right there that is going to be engraved, so that's going to be left flat. So I'm going to go ahead and take that to a 220. That'll be easier to do it now while I got the whole flat side of the knife versus if I did the grinding and then only had that small area to reference. It's easier to do that now and then do the grinding afterwards. So let's get that taken care of, and that's going to wrap this video up. Ended up taking it up to 400 grit on the belt grinder, and just got the lines redrawn on there, just sort of showing the rough grind lines. So in the next video I'm going to start actually doing the hollow grinding on this knife, and I'm not really 100% sure how I'm going to go about it yet. This will be the second knife that I've done hollow grinding on. The first one came out pretty good. Pull that one out. So things like making sure these plunge lines are really even and that the line across that defines where the hollow grind starts, I want to make sure that that is really nice and straight. The other thing, well, the difference between this knife and this knife, obviously, it's a different design. But the one I've already made, the fake Randall here, this one is extremely straight, whereas the one I'm making now is very curved. So I'm going to be doing the hollow grinding, which will require me to not just pull straight across and maintain a clean, straight grind, but I'm going to have to be following this curve the whole way. The other thing too is when you sight down, let me see, when you sight down the spine on this knife, it's pretty much an even thickness all the way to here. It's a big stiff blade. This is sort of more like a combat style knife, so you want a big heavy blade. Whereas on this one, I want the thickness of this blade from about this point to evenly taper to a fine point on the end. So I think that's going to be really tricky to do that. I'm not sure how to do that yet. I don't have any way to dead evenly taper something like with a surface grinder, how you can shim it out and taper something. So I'm going to need to figure out how to do that. I'm not sure if I can just go ahead and do one of the hollow grinds and go past my line, and then once I do the grind on the top, it'll sort of bring that line back down into the right place, and in doing that it will taper it. Or if I just need to freehand taper it. I have, I think, what's called a platen on that grinder, so I may be able just to get this up on there with some center lines drawn and some marks made and taper this thing down to those marks. That wouldn't be that easy, though, to really get a nice clean job. So not sure. I'm going to look some stuff up, and if y'all have some thoughts on it, you can let me know. I may have already done the work by the time I post this video, though. But I think I'm going to wait till at least tomorrow to do that hollow grinding and look up some stuff about how other people do that. Again, this is all sort of just me learning as I go, and each knife that I'm making, I'm trying to do something new and push myself. Basically, if I'm not biting down them, hard and 100% focused, I'm making a knife that's too easy in my mind right now. I want each knife to be a big challenge and try to do it the best I can, at that moment and skill level that I'm currently at. So hope y'all are enjoying this style of video, more casual, going at it, talking about my thoughts throughout the project versus just finish it off and just do a clean narrated video. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, or see, you can visit my website, homesteadcraftsman.com. My Facebook stuff, same thing, the Homestead Craftsman. And I've also got the Instagram. If you go to my website, I've got different things for sale, some books, furniture plans, and such. If you're new to the channel and you were drawn here strictly by the knives, I also have 2 other knife videos at the time of making this particular knife, so you can see those as well. A small little sort of bird and trout size knife, and then the one here that I showed you. So that's the showing the full process of making these. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.